We're making compost extract today, so that starts out here at compost pile. This is our sort of conglomeration of finished piles. We've reached a point in the season where, fortunately, we're using less compost than we're making, so we're getting up a nice little backlog here. I'm going to go into the interior of it where it's a little moister still, a little bit more, going to be a little bit more active, and just grab some of this stuff. I'm going to take it over. I'm going to sift out some of the really fine stuff to use in planting soil, potting soil, and then the rest of it will be used to make a compost extract, which is basically just putting this into just cool water and sort of steeping it, sort of knocking off mechanically some of the organisms into the water, and just taking advantage of the fact that we have this material that is rich both in plant available nutrients and plant beneficial microorganisms. We want to get both of those into the root zones of our plants to support their growth and the long-term health of the soil. So we just collect some of this. I'm out in the composting zone. We'll take it up towards the house and we'll work through the next steps. Next up, we're going to sift this compost. So this compost it's a mulching compost, so it's not like compost is a big word. It has a lot of different meanings. The most kind of extreme would be UK English, where it basically means potting soil, as far as I can tell. But that would be a very, very broken down fine material. This is not that. It has a high nutritional value. Everything that we put it on tends to pretty immediately start growing very well. And it has a lot of beneficial microorganisms, so it's kind of somewhere between like a fertilizing and inoculating, but it is very rough. For the most part, it's only been through the hot aerobic phase of decomposition. Hasn't really been worked over by fungi too much, so there's still some big chunky materials. So only a little bit of it is broken down enough to really make it through the sifter. This is a highly manual process at this point. This is one of the things that's definitely going to get slightly mechanized over the winter when I have time to build like a frame that I can hang this from and just kind of give it one of these. This sifting frame I used to hang out of a tree, but I have a lot of trees that are big enough for that just yet. But I want the small stuff so that I just have something to add into our native soil in order to both open it up a little bit, it's got a lot of clay, and provide a nutritional component as well when I'm planting stuff. So I want my transplants to be in an environment that's nice and rich right from the start. And so capturing some of the smaller material, the compost, is pretty valuable for that application. There's not quite so much of it in this material. This is also a pretty grass-dominated compost. It's using more wood chip before, but we got a lot of grass. And the grass is kind of nice because it really soaks up all of the juices and then works really effectively as a mulch. So you put this around the base of your plants and not much is really going to be growing up through it. So sift a bit here. This stuff over here we'll use either directly as a mulch, or this will then be the source material for our compost extracts. Here you can see we got just a little bit more than a handful of material. It's maybe loosely up to about a quarter of our bucket here. We have our water supply that's not going through the water softening system, which is important. And immediately, hopefully coming through here, you can see just running the hose over it That's really brown. That's really nice. So the brown here is humic acid, which is sort of a catch-all for a whole host of organic compounds um, that are associated with compost. We're going to walk this over here. I forgot to say. So what we're going to do with this is it's nice that the humic acid is just releasing immediately into this water, but we can do better than that. We also want all of the microbes, which is, the nematodes, the bacteria, and whatnot. And many of them will have ways of anchoring themselves into the material that they're living in. They need a moist environment. They need to be sort of saturated, but they don't want to just be free floating. So they have a way to hang on. And we want to disrupt that. And the way that we're going to do that, in order to minimize the chance that we significantly harm them, some folks will run this through like a pump system or something like that to agitate it, but you run a real problem with a lot of pump designs of lacerating your microorganisms, which is not great. They don't love that. So we are going to make use of the trusty paint stir. So come in here with the drill, just gently start agitating it. And you can see immediately it's quite a bit darker. That very quickly starts knocking quite a lot of that humic acid rich material into solution there. It doesn't really take too much. A little out of hand. And we'll save this material here. We'll save this and it'll go around a tree or something like that. But in order to save our own sanity and whatnot and be able to get this stuff to go through a watering can, quickly run it through a little filtration process. So we got just standard 5-gallon bucket sieve. I think this is a 1/4 inch. Very quickly run that through. In this step, all we're actually trying to achieve is just to get as much of the big chunks out as possible, so it doesn't majorly clog up. The next step, send that right back over here. These clear plastic buckets have the signature advantage of being clear so you can see what you're doing, but they are not actually standard 5-gallon bucket size. So a lot of these sorts of tools you can order that just fit right onto a 5-gallon bucket, and they work with any 5-gallon bucket that you get that's of the standard size, and that's pretty handy. So this is a fine sifter here. It needs to be a little bit slower going because it is going to foul up. Sometimes you have to give it some gentle encouragement to get on through there. There we go. Just the same as before. Just try to set it aside and make sure all of this ends up somewhere, because some plant will be very happy to have the stuff that has been filtered out of here. once again provides gentle encouragement to extract to get on through. And if you want to kind of come in a little bit and just get a closer look at what's happening in here, you can see this is it's now become a very rich material. And you can see these sort of like small bits of organic matter that aren't quite making it through the filter there. And that's nice because that is what will clog up all of your, what are those things called? Watering cans. There we go. Clog up your watering cans. And generally slow everything down. Once we've got that, get it on three. Now we have a bucket of nice, rich, nutritional amendment. We can just have a nice liquid fertilizer to give to our plants. And this is one of our primary sort of fertility regimes. All the stuff that it's just going to be inconvenient to keep piling compost on top of. You know, if we're growing something out in the soil and if it's a big plant, then we can just put compost around it and that's great. But if you have either things that are recently germinated or things that are in a pot, that there's only so much you can keep piling up compost before you just spill it over the top of your pot. Use your compost extract. Now, some folks will talk about a compost tea. This is not that. This is just using the organism density that was sort of naturally in the compost, whereas a compost tea, you would actually put in some sort of feed specifically for the organisms that you're trying to have multiply, and then you would aerate that continuously to keep it an aerobic situation, and then you would let those organisms multiply. If you do that for 24 hours, sometimes you can end up with millions of times more organisms than you started with because of the really short generational time on if you're looking for like a beneficial bacteria. We're not that sophisticated in operation here yet. And, you know, it is a sort of a pretty significant investment in equipment to set up the aerators and whatnot. Whereas if you have a lot of fresh compost coming off the line, you can just make extracts and it's fine. So that's what we do.